Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. If you're like me, you've been reading season previews since last spring, it seems. If this happens for Michigan, if that happens, we could have a 500 season or win 10 games. By August, you're ready to say enough of the speculation game. Let's tee it up and see if all of these off-season changes are going to make a difference. With us on our Game Day segment in just a moment will be editor John Borton from the Wolverine Magazine. First, a few of my thoughts to get us started. I can't remember in my lifetime as a Michigan fan starting a season and having no idea what kind of team we have. Based on recruiting ratings, we have a roster full of talent. Most teams in the Big Ten wish they had players as talented as we do. Other than Ohio State, we have recruited better than any other team in the conference over the last 6 years. Penn State is right there with us, though. So based on that alone, you would think we should be viewing this team as a Big Ten contender, with only Ohio State standing in our way. Instead, you would be lucky if you could find one college analyst or magazine that hasn't picked us fourth in the Big Ten East. We're all frustrated with the last decade of Michigan football and hope springs eternal that this year will bring us the season we've been waiting for so long. By that, I don't mean a Big Ten championship, but a return to not only beating the teams we should, like those guys in East Lansing, but winning on the road against ranked teams like Wisconsin and Penn State, and at least not getting our doors blown off in the game. That might be asking too much this year, I'm not sure, and that's what I find depressing. I never expected to be that uncertain about Michigan football as year 7 of the Harbaugh era approached. My guest today says he's more optimistic than most of our local media. He actually thinks we should win 8 games, and if our talent plays like it should, maybe even 10. Up next on our Game Day segment is the longtime editor of the Wolverine Magazine, John Borton. So stay with us. Here with us on our Game Day segment this week as we edge even closer to that opening game with editor John Borton from the Wolverine Magazine. Once again, John, great to have you back with us.
And great, as always, to be with you. Looking forward to the football season. I know everybody else that has been involved with Michigan football for so long, and lots of questions out there. Let's try to answer some.
Oh, yeah. And as we said, in less than 2 weeks, we're going to tee it off against Western Michigan in the Big House with a real live crowd this year. No more cutouts. We'll have the band, everything that makes Saturdays special in the fall. It's a day everyone has looked forward to, and I think I read this last week, for over 500 days, and it should be a lot of fun, John.
Oh, no doubt about it. I can imagine the energy in that building when they come out against Western Michigan. Maybe not the most high-profile opponent you could have in an opener, and yet Western Michigan is pretty solid this year. I mean, people might be shocked at how they hang in there, at least for a while, because there was one magazine out there in the preseason that had Western Michigan ranked ahead of Michigan. So that kind of gives you an idea of a couple things, that Western Michigan's is not too bad, and that Michigan has some work to do to repair, I think, its image after last season. But there's no question that you're going to have that stadium filled up, and there will be a ton of energy. People that haven't been in there in so long coming out the other side of a long, dark stretch, and we'll be looking forward to seeing Michigan play well.
Well, last week, the Michigan Athletic Department and the university sent out guidelines for fans attending all fall sports. Masks not required, but suggested in the stadium, required at concession stands and in bathrooms. But of course, that is subject to change throughout the fall. I know a lot of fans are going to bellyache about the mask suggestions, but big picture, I hope they appreciate that this might not be normal, but it is surely a positive step forward from last year at this time, isn't it?
Well, it beats sitting home and watching on TV, at least for those who have tickets and have forever and want to be there. So, you have to do what you need to do to be in the building, and that's That's basically the message. I know that there were so many that it is such a tradition. It goes beyond football, honestly. I walk to the stadium from a ways out, and I walk by all the tailgates, and I just, the smells and the sights and the excitement of fall and renewed friendships and relationships. It's just it's a very, very special time, a very special event, like I said, that goes beyond football, and I think people are looking forward to getting back to it.
By late August, John, and here we are, mid to late August, media folks and fans, I think we feel the same way. It's enough of the preseason prognostication, speculation, coach speak. We're all ready to tee it up, see what we have, because right now, the fact is, we hope Michigan is better than a lot of experts think, but we don't get our first indication until that Western Michigan game, do we?
No, you really don't, because you're looking at the hard facts. 2-4 last year. Yes, you had injuries, and yes, you had some special circumstances, but bottom line, 2-4, a defense that gave up very nearly 35 points a game on average, an offense that couldn't get out of its own way at times and was inconsistent and had personnel turnover, quarterback and other key positions. So, yeah, there's a lot of questions, a lot to prove. Is Cade McNamara going to be that guy that steps up and really grabs a hold of the quarterback situation? Will this offensive line start to gel early in this season, and how will that look? The wide receivers we've heard great things about in the fall. Are they going to step forward and really be on the same page with McNamara in that opener right from the get-go? And you look at the defensive side of the ball, you've got everything coming in new with Mike McDonald and a totally new system from the Baltimore Ravens. So absolutely, many, many questions, but I think that adds to the intrigue of this particular season. One of those things where so many items are new that people will be bringing their binoculars to the stadium and just in great anticipation of exactly what they're going to see.
You're right. It is great anticipation and big question marks all over the place. And, I know as a senior editor at Wolverine, you hear from and converse with a lot of our fan base. So you have a good feel for, how they're approaching the season. From the people you hear from, would you say they're optimistic, resigned to the fact it could be a struggle, or just have no idea what to expect?
I would say they're in a little bit of an arms folded state of show me, like they all just came from Missouri. It's one of those deals where, okay, we've been promised this, we've been told this, and yet we have seen this. So that's fine. It's great to know that Michigan football underwent dramatic change over the past year in response to not only 2-4 last year, but big fall offs against Ohio State, for example, in recent years. So you've got all this change. You've got a completely new defensive system. You've got new people in new places and younger guys that we hear about. Okay, they're coming along, but it's very much, okay, how is that going to translate onto the field? And, the prognosticators, the ones that have Michigan climbing back above 500, are saying things like 7 wins this season, 8 wins if you're optimistic. So I have felt, as I've talked to fans, like I said, this sort of arms folded, look, I'm not interested in the hype. I want to see what happens sort of feel. And from Michigan football players and coaches who have seen and read all that and can't avoid it, kind of all right, we're going to show people pushback, anywhere from frustration to anger to a square-jawed, clenched teeth. We're going to get this done. So those are a lot of interesting dynamics swirling around this football season as we draw very near to its beginning.
A lot has changed in the offseason. You just mentioned all of the changes at Michigan, so both on and off the field. One of the things that is really different this year across the board in college football, the NIL, name, image, and likeness. And that's in its infancy. And I am not embarrassed to say that I really don't understand it that well. So I don't know if I like it or don't, but it sure seems like a recruiting game changer, doesn't it, John?
It can be. And yet, as we've gone through the early part of this, I just wonder if it will be as much as I initially expected. I have such mixed feelings about this. I mean, You're talking about the ability to pay players, which, I think some pretty high-profile teams around the country have done anyway in the past. But it hasn't been, it's been illicit. It's been something that they have gotten away with for the most part. And now you're making it legal, and all the ins and outs of who is getting what from whom and who can step forward and do this, and does the university have to sanction this? And it seems like the ones that have gotten the biggest jump on things were the ones that seemed to operate in the greatest gray areas before. So whereas I think Michigan takes a more measured, let's do this right, sort of approach, you've got other entities that are out there and guns a-blazing and off to a really, really flying start with it. So you start to wonder, okay, Michigan has wanted to abide by the rules all these years and be able to talk about being above board in all things. It seems like that is continuing, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. I mean, it's certainly to Michigan's credit that they don't want to be numbered among the cheaters, but it seems like more of the same with the NIL. I'd be very fascinated to see how Michigan approaches this in the days to come, knowing that it is in a consistent battle with the top teams in the country for how much talent you're able to procure and how you go about doing it.
One of my listeners emailed me last week and asked me a question regarding NIL that just stumped me. They wanted to know who had oversight responsibilities. Was it the NCAA, universities? And I have no idea on that.
Well, I think that the universities are supposed to step forward and make sure that it doesn't get out of line. Mm-hmm. The NCAA, I would expect, if they saw things that were egregious in their estimation, could step in. But I think so much is going to fall to the universities to, okay, what are we going to allow? What are we going to facilitate? What are we going to promote? What are we going to put in place? And that's where you again are going to have such a diversity of approaches here. So I would guess that, like I said, overall, I would think if schools were offering to make freshmen instant millionaires through certain donors, maybe that then the NCAA steps in and says, well, no, you can't do that. But even then, do they get challenged in the courts? Mm-hmm. So it's the Wild West. We're going to see what happens.
Well, we are. It's in its infancy. A lot of questions surrounding how it's going to work. And the thing I guess I struggle with is, how does this change the landscape for schools other than Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, and there are a few others out there. I've read opinions that this levels the playing field in some ways for other schools. I just can't see how that is true, but again, I don't understand it that well yet. Until I see how this rolls out, I'm sort of looking at it, I think, like many fans I've talked to, is it's kind of the rich get richer end game right now, which I know that's cynical, but it sure seems like we're opening a big can of worms, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and I wrote about this not all that long ago, saying in a column that it could it could be a way for the entities such as Michigan, such as Notre Dame, that want to play at a high level and want to do so with integrity to maybe close that gap on the outlaw programs, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But again, as I see this develop, it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder how much, how soon, how will they approach this? And I'm going to have a conversation coming up with Ward Manuel, who, as you know, is the athletic director of Michigan, and that's one of the questions that I have for him. Okay, what is Michigan's approach going to be with regard to this moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
It's how will they handle it? Will they be able to convert it into a situation where, okay, we know, players were getting X amount at other schools illicitly before. Can that gap be narrowed through totally above board means? Or is it still a situation where, okay, it'll bump up this much for those opting for Michigan's football program, but it will bump up, watch it go crazy over here and over here.
Well, time will tell on all of these NIL questions. It's going to be fascinating to watch. But for now, it's just great to have college football back and forget about that. So let's talk about this Michigan team and get a few of your thoughts, John, starting with that quarterback position. Unless something changes in the next week and a half or so, it sure sounds like Cade McNamara will be under center to start the year, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that is absolutely true. I don't see it changing at all, barring some, heaven forbid, some sort of injury. Cade McNamara, I spoke to him in the spring for our football preview, and he revealed a great deal of maturity in how he went about things. Remember, only a little more than a year ago, he was third on the depth chart, behind two guys that are not even in the program anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he went about his business every single day as if he were going to be the starter. And he just said to himself, I know that I am going to start at some point. And that actually came along. That happened. But the fact that he was ready, the fact that he did everything that, they tell you to, that doesn't always happen when you're not named that starter. It is not always, okay, I'm going to have a next man up mentality. Lots of guys admit later on that they just kind of accepted it and didn't put as much into it as those who have been designated, okay, you're going to be the guys. Cade McNamara did not do it that way. He says so. His father says so as I talked to him, but most importantly, his teammates sense that.
Right.
Ryan Hayes just came out and said that he has taken charge in a leadership role as well or better than anybody that he's been around since he's been here. And, it has really firmed up Cade McNamara's situation. Now what has to happen is all these weapons, the running backs are good, and the receivers, they've got offensive linemen. How does it all come together to actually move the football on game day?
As of now, we have 3 starters penned in on that offensive line, Zinter, Stuber, and Hayes, last to hurt anyway. What is good to hear, though, is there is a lot of competition and some depth with that group, and that is always a good thing, isn't it, John?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. You're looking at Trente Jones as a possible other starter over there at that left guard spot, but you've got Chuck Filiaga, who had a great summer and started there last year and is pushing like crazy. You've got the ability for Zach Zinter to move into the center spot, and then that causes some other dominoes to fall because you've got some really good people in other areas, the Nolan Rumlers of the world, who have gotten a taste and been around and will keep pushing. And so, yeah, there is depth, there is talent, and I think we're gonna see the best five that they can possibly put out there, and how they come together and go from there. But there are so many offensive linemen. I've said this before, but so many offensive linemen close to this program, whether it be in the radio broadcast team or whatever, but they're keeping a very close eye. They like these guys, and I've heard it over and over again. Now it's taking that next step.
Well, Mike Hart seems to really like his running backs. As you mentioned, we've got some good ones, and he has had good things to say about at least the top three, Hassan Haskins, Blake Corum, and Donovan Edwards. We have yet to see him on the field, but it sure looks like this is maybe as talented a trio as we've seen at Michigan in a while, John, isn't it?
Oh, yes. I mean, there's no question. You look at a Hassan Haskins, he gives you so much toughness, so much ability to run over people or run around them. He's a great lead back. I really believe that if he gets the help that he needs, the blocking and the ability to, it gets back to, again, Cade McNamara, if he's completing passes and backing people off, that opens up the running game. It all goes together. But Blake Corum, at 1A at that tailback spot, has just remade his body. He is a compact figure who is absolutely sculpted. His arms are bulging. Mike Hart says he's faster than I ever was. That's for sure. And then you got Donovan Edwards, who 5-star freshman that everybody was talking about. He's third on the depth chart. That's not a bad thing for Michigan. That is not a negative commentary on Donovan Edwards. It means you've got good guys that have been around and been in the system before him. He is uber talented and just learning where he is, learning the system, learning the subtleties of what he needs to do, and yet he's going to play early from everything that we're told. So a really strong situation at running back.
Absolutely. And when we look at the wideouts and the tight end positions, just lumping the receivers in, we have a lot of potential. There's no question about it. But it seems like potential is a word we have heard associated with that group for the last couple of years now, and really haven't seen it, progress on the field. Ronnie Bell will step up. We know that. But we need at least a couple more to get involved with Ronnie, don't we?
Absolutely. And I had a great conversation with Ronnie Bell just recently. He's featured in our newest issue of the Wolverine that's coming out next week. He'll be on the cover. He is very motivated. He's shown what he can do. Coming out of one of those recruiting backgrounds where everybody said, well, why are they taking this guy? Well, we found out. And he is angry and motivated and really ready to get after it. But you're right. He needs help. That's why what we're hearing about Cornelius Johnson is so good, because here's the guy, they had several more lengthy receivers before, in the not too distant past, but they're a little short on them at this point. Cornelius Johnson at 6'3", 211 is somebody that can go up and get it and do really, really well in that respect. And he's had a great fall. So I think that from that standpoint, you're looking at someone that has people excited. There are a lot of younger receivers that have been out there and have gotten a bit of a taste. And I think that, you're gonna go 6 or 7 deep in terms of the guys that they can legitimately put out there and feel good about. Now, again, it's how they mesh, how they are able to get open and do the things that they need to do to be exactly on the same page with McNamara, with other parts of the offense, and how they're deployed. Again, Josh Gaddis is in a situation where people are looking to him. Okay, what's this offense going to look like in his third year? So all of it works together. I think that the receivers have talent, and yet that's the question.
You would think if Cade McNamara can just be efficient at least early, and then we'll see how he progresses as the year goes on. that this offense has a lot of firepower, at least on paper, and I think most of us expect big things from that unit.
I think that the offense is going to have to be the whole being greater than the sum of the parts, because it was an offense that really struggled at times last year. And I think Josh Gaddis has mentioned that he wants to have them stick with the running attack better than they did a year ago, not dig great holes like they did. And I see the potential. You saw the potential at Rutgers when they got down 17 and they had to come back, and Cade McNamara brought them back. Now, can they do that on a more consistent basis? Can they do that against better competition? I just think it's a question of really seeing it come together and them producing at a higher level.
As far as the defense goes, we really don't know what we're going to get there. Mike McDonald, as you mentioned, in his first year as defensive coordinator. I was a little bit surprised when BTN was in town a week or so ago watching practice and then the scrimmage. And I forget who it was on that crew said they were very impressed with the defensive linemen. They said you walk into some buildings and the defensive linemen don't look like Division I defensive linemen. They don't have the bodies or the speed. They saw all of that on Michigan's defensive line, which was good to hear because of all the position groups on that side of the ball. That D-line is the one that at least concerns Michigan fans, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and for good reason. I think that not only the frontline guys, but the depth has been a big question mark. And I think it was partly philosophical under the last defensive staff, in that I think they wanted smaller, quicker defensive linemen, basically playmakers. I think you're seeing the return of bigger, bulkier, stronger defensive linemen that can maybe deal better with the Wisconsins of the world and with other teams that want to really pound it. And I think that Mike McDonald will bring a lot to the defensive side, but I do think that's where they have the most work to do in my mind. You know, people would go to, it's got to be the secondary after seeing some of the displays of last year, but I think scheme is going to help the defensive backs a great deal. I don't know. I don't know that scheme can make up for those one-on-one matchups up front where you have to win. I think Michigan certainly has some players that are going to be able to step forward and get some things done, but I'm not sure that at this point they have proven it to the extent that, okay, everybody is all in on the fact that, you know, they're that solid up front. We've heard some really good things at times about Mozzie Smith coming in. Mike Morris, a younger guy, is doing well. Chris Hinton has had his moments. Donovan Jeter drew big attention the other day, and Aiden Hutchison. You know, he's the sure thing up there on those guys that are going to be up in the front. But there are enough question marks that I still think that this is an area that you have to really watch closely.
Yeah, you sort of get the feeling, I know Mike's been here since spring, so he knows his personnel better than we do, but it almost seems as if it's going to be like a puzzle this year, at least early in the season, trying to make the pieces fit that get the best results.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, that's kind of like any defensive year, but when you add the extra factors of new coaches in, and you're trying to learn and deploy a new system that, from everything that I understand, is a little more complex than what was there previously. Now, that can be good and bad. Good is that guys continue to say, we feel like we've got more answers. We've got more confusion to throw at offenses. We've got this and we've got that. And that's good, but it's not good if you are not pulling it off the way it's intended to be deployed. And so we'll see pretty quickly how well they've taken to heart the lessons that are being taught by defensive coordinator Mike McDonald and these new coaches, because they're just peppered with different coaches on the defensive side.
It's going to be fascinating to see, and you're right. They're going to get tested right out of the gate against Western Michigan. So we'll know a lot more about the defense at that point. In your great Wolverine preview issue, John, the staff and contributors weighed in on what you thought Michigan, or how you thought Michigan would finish this year. I think on average, most of you were around the 7-5 mark. I think Doug Skeen was 5-7. Maybe it was Doug Karsh who was 5-7.
It was actually Doug Skeen.
It was Doug Skeen. Okay, I heard him have that conversation.
It was printed under Doug Karsh's name.
That
was the one glitch. I was kidding Doug Karsh about that, but that's a good opportunity to straighten that one out.
Okay, I heard them mention it. He and Chris talking on the podcast last week. So okay, but do you still think 7 wins is all you can see for this team right now?
Oh, I was the big optimist of the staff and went in for 8. And I think, what that is, Mike, is really kind of hedging your bet, because there's no guarantee that you're going to take a 2-4 team, lose some really good players like Kwity Paye, install a whole new defense, have a new starter at quarterback, and have as many question marks as Michigan has, throw in a schedule that involves going to Michigan State, going to Penn State, going to Wisconsin. Certainly there's the Ohio State threat at the end of the year, and have, a season where you click right back into 10 wins. I just think the questions are abundant here. The possibilities are endless. You haven't lost the game yet, like everybody else, and you have this potential, and you have these guys that are saying it's going to be different. We're going to make it different. We're fed up, and that's great. But I think the prognostications here are a direct result of what we saw on the field, and trying to gauge, okay, how much better can they get over the course of several months, even with all the changes.
Well, final question before we let you get away then, John. And rolling off that last question, you and I know the fans are going to find 7 or 8 wins not acceptable. The majority of them. We know their patience is running thin with what we've seen the last 5 or 6 years. One of the questions I get from fans quite often is, would it be time to part ways with Jim if we only win 7 or 8 and then get pummeled by Ohio State in the end? And I just don't know how to answer that question right now, but if that does happen, at the end of the season, the calls for change will be very loud, won't they, John?
I think so, but I do think it depends on how it takes place, how this season plays out, regardless of the record. I mean, if it's within that 7 or 8 win range that we were speaking of, how it happens is going to be meaningful. Don't get your doors blown off at Wisconsin. Don't go out to Penn State and lay an egg in a whiteout. Do not lose to Michigan State again. Ohio State, don't give up 56 points. Don't give up 62 points. Don't look like you have no answers against an admittedly very good crew of Buckeyes that got held to much more reasonable point totals against other teams, what you might consider lesser teams, the Northwestern and others. So I think it has everything to do with, okay, does Michigan show the capacity for really having changed direction, having made all these huge changes, are they headed back clearly in the right direction? Or is it, they won 7 games, they won 8 games, but they're still getting just demolished against the really good teams in the league. So I think that the how is, in this case, maybe as big as the how many.
Well, we won't have to wait long to start getting some of the answers to many of these questions we've discussed today. So the opener against Western Michigan, a little more than a week away. With us on our show, on our Game Day segment this week, has been Senior Editor John Borton from the Wolverine Magazine. John, always a pleasure to have you on the show. You're so gracious with your time, and we look forward to getting you back on as soon as we tee it up and get going.
I always enjoy it, Mike. Thanks so much for having me, and I can't wait to see how they roll out this whole package.
On Quick Hits today, it was another week where we heard very little news out of Fort Schembechler. Mike Hart made a media appearance and raved about his backs. Ryan Hayes met with the press and said things feel different and better with the team this summer. No discussion of injuries either. This weekend preseason practice comes to an end. On Sunday, Michigan starts game week preparation for the opener with Western. This isn't your grandfather's Broncos team either. Many of the preseason magazines have them rated ahead of us, and I never thought I'd see that day. So we are just a week away from having some kind of idea what Michigan football will look like this year. Don't be surprised if the Western game is a dogfight too. Just getting a W in the opener, however we get it done, has to be the goal. We need to get this season underway on a positive note. It is imperative. Next week, we begin our regular season program schedule. On Tuesday, it will be our Michigan Game Day show. Then on Thursday, our Visitors Edition. My scheduled guest on Tuesday's show is Jim Brandstatter, the radio play-by-play voice of our Wolverines. On Thursday, we are scheduled to hear from Robin Hook, the longtime radio voice of the Broncos. So hopefully with Jim and Robin's schedules, we can work it out. You never know this time of year. And I hope you'll join us as we prepare for the beginning of another Michigan football season. That does it for another show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. Until we meet again, take care, and as always, go blue.
Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!